This is All of It on WNYC. I'm Allison Stewart. Pickles are an important part of the culinary history of New York and really of the world. Almost all civilizations have used this preservative technology to make their harvest stretch through the winter. They help feed Caesar's armies through long military campaigns. Aristotle celebrated their medicinal effects. Despite the global reach of this equally parts tasty and practical technique, pickles have taken on a special place as a symbol of Jewish food in particular, thanks to Eastern European pickling traditions, and that's in part to the impact of Ashkenazi diaspora communities, most notably right here in New York City. A new book takes a look at the history of pickles, and it intersects with the history of the city. It's called The Pickled City, The Story of New York Pickles, and its authors are here with me in studio to talk about it. They are culinary history writers Paul Van Ravestein. Did I get that right?
Yes, perfect.
And Monique Mulder. Hi,
yes.
Monique.
Hi.
And also joining us is Alan Kaufman, owner of the Pickle Guys, one of the last remaining pickle stores on Essex Street, what used to be known as Pickle Allen. Allie, thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for the pickles. I wish this were smell radio. If they had smell,
Well, you know what we say, smells great, tastes better.
so good, so good. I'm just going to try to ignore those pickles for a little bit, and then we'll get into it in a minute. Monique, you write at the end of your introduction, the pickle is a vessel of memory, a symbol of survival, and a story of shared history. How so?
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, it's a culinary memory, what we have. And that is the beauty out of such a sort of humble product like a pickle. If you go deeper in the history, and that is what we do, we are identity builders. So we are always going into the history where things are coming from. Then you see it will say so much more about the, let's say, soiled layers of a city, the social, demographical, cultural traditions. So it's not only a product, it becomes a culture, a tradition. So we all have a culinary memory. I mean, when I ask you how an apple pie will taste, I mean, you are swapped back into maybe your grandmother or mother, and you have all this kind of memory. So with food, it's a beautiful interface to enter history and find identities. So related to New York, it's the identity of New York, actually. It has all to do with the history of New York and how it came here.
What kind of things came to light, Paul, about the exploration that made you think pickles are a good way to describe the history of New York?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, we did a lot of visual research because we are designers at the end of the day, and so visual is essential. So we want to show the story, not so much only tell the story. So we kind of recreated the Lower East Side or New York because of all those 1930s or even earlier pictures. So we walked, so to say, from Amsterdam through the city in 1930 in New York. So for us, that was really an exploration and a new kind of way of seeing things.
It's beautiful. Like, it's actually a beautiful photo book.
Yeah.
As well as the story of pickles.
Yeah.
Alan, how'd you get into pickles?
Well, I used to work for Pickle People when I was younger. I started out as an advertising photographer. And then when film went to digital, I went into the pickle business full time. I learned from all the old timers like Nathan Hollander and Solly Kaplan and the Gus family. And if I didn't go into it, there'd be a lost art. And I consider what I do like art.
Yeah.
What I do is I do whatever I do, and I do it well.
Tell me what you brought me today.
Today I brought you two ends of the spectrum. We have a new pickle, which is just a couple of days old, which are going to be very fresh, clean tasting. And then on the other end of the scale, we have a sour pickle that's been aged for 3 months before we even sell it.
Ooh.
And that is the most popular. We sell that. We call it the Cadillac of pickles.
All right, which one should I try first?
Try the new one first.
The new one first?
Yeah.
Okay, hold on. Here we
Watch
go.
out, it's snappy.
Very good.
It's the best.
While I'm chewing away from the microphone, I'll ask you, how did cucumber pickles like this one, in particular, come to mean pickles? When people talk about pickles, they think of this. Why is it Why is it a cucumber, the original pickle?
Why is it a cucumber?
Yeah.
I can answer
Please.
that one. Well, it has to do with actually pickling. when they first pickled, the most popular item to pickle were cucumbers. So like it became pickles, just like facial tissue is Kleenex. When you say hand me a Kleenex, because it's most popular. So that's why pickles are mostly thought of as cucumbers, and everything else is pickled. Pickled.
But also the word pickle comes from pekel, which is a Dutch word and saying salty, so salting vegetables.
Yeah.
So it's also some Dutch heritage
It's
here.
a Dutch heritage, but also because the cucumber can add some flavors. So it by itself, it's a very mellow taste, the cucumber. So then when you add flavors on it, it will blend beautiful.
Listeners, we want to hear your pickle takes. Do you like them full sour, half sour, crunchy or soft, with a spicy kick or more earthy? We especially want to hear from you if you're out there making your own pickles or pickled something. We want to know what flavors and textures you're aiming for. Our phone number is 212-433-9692, 212-433-WNYC. My guests are Paul Van Ravestein and Monique Mulder, the authors of the book, The Pickled City, The Story of New York Pickles, as well as Alan Kaufman, owner of The Pickle Guys. You start the books in antiquity, Mesopotamia to 2400 BC. What are the primary sources for that?
Oh, whoa. Now we have like 200 archives and sources we used to go through. It took us 4 years to make this book.
Wow.
But it started with another book on the Amsterdam pickle history, and that took us 5 years also. So it's incredible how many sources and archives we opened up.
The book includes stories about Cleopatra claiming pickles contributed to her beauty, as well as Julius Caesar claiming pickles gave his troop extra fortitude. When did people realize that consuming pickles was more than just sustenance?
What I think it's something what we see already for so many years, and it's a way of preserving. It's a food technology where we are talking about, and of course we can combine it with stories like Caesar and Cleopatra and the Egyptians up till now, but it will show us also the resilience of people. And food is a beautiful topic. I mean, people are migrating, people are moving, they are nomads, and either you have a very cold winter or a flooding. So you have to preserve your food in several ways. Salt is a beautiful thing, drying is a beautiful thing, putting it in acid is also, or vinegar, it's also a thing to preserve it for a later time. So it says for us everything about how the relation between the people, the food, the land, and the circumstances.
Let's take a call. This is Stacy calling in from Bloomfield, New Jersey. Thanks for calling all of it, Stacy.
Thank you for listening. I just had to tell you something. That pickle you just tried at the microphone, you need to try all of them at the microphone. I had to pull over because my mouth just started watering at the very thought of what you were biting on, and it was sounding so delicious. I am a pickle. I'm not an aficionado, but I am an aspiring aficionado. I only know about one brand of pickles, and I'm trying out different ones this summer. And I'm not a pickler, but it's something I'm thinking about now listening to this program. I wanted the guests to try to suggest some pickles or some flavors that we might want to try besides the dill and some of the classic ones. And I know he just suggested 2 new ones. Your guest just suggested 2 new ones. But can he suggest any other flavors? Like, what if I wanted to pickle? What would I put in the brine, or what would I put in that?
Okay, actually, when we make pickles at the Pickle Guys, we do it the old-fashioned way. The recipes are from 1910 from Eastern European countries.
Oh wow!
We have never changed the recipes for the actual pickles themselves. They're the same ones, and basically all it is salt water, pickling spices, garlic, and cucumbers. And the amount of time that they're aged for is going to determine what kind of flavor the pickles are going to be. 1 to 10 days is going to be a new pickle. It's going to be real crunchy, like you just heard. And the most popular one is going to be a sour pickle, which are aged for 3 months, has the most flavor, and it's still going to be snappy. And then you have one in the middle that's a half sour pickle. And then again, if you want to go binoculars, you could add bourbon with it and make bourbon pickles, whiskey pickles, add hot peppers to make a spicy pickles, horseradish flavored pickles. Yeah. The actual cucumber takes on the flavor of what you put in there.
All right, so the other one you brought is this one.
The 3-month-old, the Cadillac.
All right, here we go before I get to the next call. I understand why it's a Cadillac. I get it. Oh, this one's good. The other one was sort of like refreshing, but this is delicious. Let's talk to David on Staten Island. Hi, David. Thanks for calling all of it.
Thank you. So I want to say I've been to the Pickle Guy many times down on Grand Street. So thank you for all the work. It's a great experience. I've also been in the Essex Market, I think, right? That's where you are? But,
we were there, yes.
Yeah, so my favorite is the sour pickle. So now, just like the previous caller, my mouth is watering because I want one of those. Because my favorite is the sour pickle, which I would get at 2nd Avenue Deli. I'm not sure who does their pickles, but their combo with the health salad is fantastic. But the question I've done pickling with banana peppers. So I wanted to know if you had any, history to that and any tips on sort of spicy things that you can add as condiments.
Okay, well, when we also do hot peppers there. We do pepperoncinis and jalapenos, habaneros. Basically, it's just vinegar, water, and salt, and that's pretty much it. I mean, I'm sure you can go online and get different recipes, and like I said, you just mix everything together. Try never to use a hot brine. Try to use a cold brine and let it cure in a cold climate. You find out you get a more snappier product.
Yeah, Monique, what flavors or techniques distinguish pickling in Asian countries and Asian traditions versus the Eastern European traditions versus the Middle Eastern and Northern African traditions in pickling?
Yeah, so what I said is when you look all over the world, you see in Asia, for instance, with the soya, it's a technique what happens, and it is more in the salty way how they go. Then you go to the Middle East and the eastern part of Europe. They have, let's say, in the eastern part of Europe, they have much more dill. That's the northern part.
Oh.
In the Middle East, they have some warmer spices what they put in to it, and what they have here in the States, we have, as you can say, all the ingredients what you are using. So when I took a ride over the world, I would say from salt, going more the exotic spices in the middle, and then the dill, and then going up to Europe.
But if you're talking about pickles, then in Europe, way back in 1300, Jews weren't into making wine because that wasn't really kosher, or they didn't just make it.
Yeah.
But this vinegar is related to this climate zone in the south. And in the northern part of Europe, the salty fermentation was normal, and with the harsh winters. So if you can follow the tastes to the US in this case, how that developed. Yeah.
I'm interested in sort of the culinary technology of pickling. I mean, what kind of things could earlier humans accomplish with pickling that wouldn't have been possible without it?
The pastrami sandwich.
Or would it have been harder to live if there hadn't been pickling?
No, yeah. What I said, it's a sort of survival method. Huh?
I would think
it's
so.
a technology. I mean, in those days, people become much more, or they were much more nomadish. How you say it? They moved. And they moved with the climate, and they moved with what's growing there. So when you are moving, you take not only your culinary memory with you, but also your stuff. And you dry it, and you salt it, and and then when you arrive on a new place and rooted there, the blend starts. And that was the beauty of our research, that we saw it starts in the East, and they took things to the Middle East, and they prepared a completely new blend. And that is what we see nowadays also, because there's a sort of revival in Europe of the pickle. So all the, let's say, the young ones, the young picklers, they use very wild varieties. So they are much more free and creative. And in the early days, it was really something to prepare, to overcome the winters.
We're talking about the history of pickles in New York City and the world with Alan Kaufman, owner of the Pickle Guys, along with Paul Van Ravestein and Monique Mulder, authors of The Pickle City, the story of New York pickles. We want to hear your pickle takes. Do you like them full, half sour, crunchy, or soft, with a little bit of a spicy kick? And we especially want to hear from you if you're out there making your own pickles. Our number is 212-433-9692, 212-433-WNYC. We got a lot of calls. Let's talk to Adam calling in from Washington Heights. Hi, Adam. Thanks for making the time to call. All of it.
Hey, what a pleasure to hear the show and to hear you guys so excited about pickling.
Tell us about you and pickling.
Oh, my God. Literally about a decade ago, I was listening to a forerunner of this show on WNYC that was going on about the pickle revival that was just kicking into high gear at that time. And I found a recipe in the New York Times, and I tried it, lacto-fermentation pickling. I grew up going to places like the Pickle Man or Tabachnik's out in New Jersey. And this is the first time I ever tried it, and I went bonkers. You can make, the best amazing pickles you've ever tasted right on your own countertop. It's astounding.
Adam, thanks for calling in. Let's talk to Monique, who's calling from Tarrytown. Hey, Monique, thank you for calling. All of it.
Hi, thanks for taking me. Oh, my goodness, culinary memory. It's like, the Madeleine. Pickles just remind me of my childhood. My father was Polish, and we used to have this big stoneware crock always all through summer, and there'd be this constant rotation of pickles. And so it's a great memory. Thank you for bringing it up. And I just wanted to share here in Tarrytown, the Little Gardens of Tarrytown, which is a garden club, we did in the wintertime, what do you do with plants? We did a pickling meeting, and all the members came, and we had jars, and everyone could put in as much garlic or little, those pepper bombs, and everyone had the Kirby peppers, and it is very, very straightforward. And talk about immediate gratification. Just 3 days, and you have some amazing taste. So thank you, and what a nice topic. Thank you.
Thanks so much. What do you think when you hear these calls?
It's fantastic, because that is, as what I said, culinary memory is a beautiful thing when you really are thinking about it. It brings you back to your family history, but it also to your culture. And what we see, food is really a sort of interface to start talking about identities, culture, and that people are coming nearer to each other instead of, dividing them. But so we use always food as an interface, not only to enter history, but also to commute, to bring people together. And then people start talking about their, not only the flavor and the beautiful taste and what they are making, but also, as what the lady just said on the radio.
But it's also interesting that it's locally produced. Like Long Island was the pickle production island for New York City. Until 1922, there was a bacteria and all the crops went corrupt, or if you say that correctly. So this locally produced pickles is also an interesting item in terms of community thinking.
Absolutely.
What?
So the soil where it's coming from.
What did the pickle industry look like at its peak in New York City?
Huge. It was in Lower East Side in 1915. There were 10 pickle companies, but in New York in 1915 there were 100, literally. We found the directory of that. But the heydays were in the 30s. There are so many push carts, of course, until they were abandoned and they had to go inside the Essex market, for instance, because of this mayor who doesn't like it. It was unhealthy. Rats were all over the place. It was a bloody mess. But it was a nice, chaotic, dynamic area, I guess, in the 30s or 20s.
That's what we see also on the pictures.
Yeah.
Literally, yeah.
So, Alan, you weren't around in 20s or 30s. How did you get started in pickles?
I kind of just fell into a barrel. Like I said, I was a commercial photographer. I had a lot of time off. I used to hang out with my friends, and they worked for the pickle people, and I hung out with them, and I learned from the biggest guys around. And I enjoy it. And every time I sell a pickle and somebody bites into that pickle, like you just did before, you said, wow, that's a great pickle. You can't get a better feeling than that.
Oh.
I people beg me never to retire, to stay here for the rest of my life and just make pickles for them.
That's another discussion. Let's talk to Holly from Stanford. Hey, Holly, thanks for calling all of it.
Hey, thanks for taking my call. You were talking about food memories, and my earliest memory is of my grandfather worked at Hollander Pickles all his life, and he made the wooden barrels. He was a cooper, and I remember being lifted up high enough to reach into the barrel and grab a pickle.
Wow.
Was he Nady Hollander?
No, Nathan.
Yeah.
Yes, I remember Nathan.
Yeah, I know Nathan too. I learned from Nathan. I don't know if that's your grand.
No, it was Isidore Greenfield.
Okay, Greenfields. Yeah, Greenfield Pickles. Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Famous.
Yeah.
Because Nathan Hollander was L. Hollander and son, and Nathan Hollander, who was old, was the son. So I never knew the other Hollander.
Yeah. Greenfield is also in our book, indeed.
Yeah. Excellent. Let's talk to Matt from Bergen County. Hi, Matt. Thanks for calling all of it.
Hey, thanks so much for taking my call. What a great show. So I had to call in. Very close friends of my family are longtime picklers, 3 generations. They have a factory up in Patterson. And this year they're actually opening on the boardwalk in Seaside a grill, Grill My Dill, if I can give it a shameless plug.
Good name.
They're going to be trying some grill pickles out there. So I had to call in because hearing you speak the Cadillacs, he used to call his diamonds. I remember they were, his were always
cool.
That's excellent. And let's talk to Antonio before we run out of time. Antonio is calling from Red Bank, New Jersey. Thanks for calling, Antonio. You're on the air.
Oh, fabulous. I wanted to say how much I love studying social history through food, and I wanted to mention 2 food memories. As a Hungarian American, I started eating pickled beets before I could talk practically. And as soon as I was old enough, I was about 12 or so, I started making pickled beets, and I've never stopped. Also, I wanted to mention that I lived in the Netherlands, in Amsterdam, for a greater part of 10 years, and I loved sauerkraut.
Oh, yes.
And I don't know if you've mentioned it yet, but that's the most, I think it's a national dish.
Absolutely.
And as it is in Hungary, by the way, it crosses many borders.
Yeah.
And it is absolutely, when it's made correctly, it is one of the most wonderful, delicious things to eat.
Thank you so much for calling in. We've only got about a minute left. Alan, if somebody has to buy store-bought pickles, is there anything that they can do to make them better?
Go to the refrigeration section. Don't buy in the middle of the aisles. Don't buy the ones that are sitting there for 12 months.
All right. Do you want to leave our listeners with something to think about pickles?
To go into the book, I would say. It's all there. So jump into the world of the pickles.
I'm so excited to eat more pickles, and I'm very glad that Alan Kaufman could join me in studio. He's with the Pickle Guys. He's the owner of the Pickle Guys, along with Paul Van Ravestein and Monique Mulder, the author of The Pickle City, the story of New York pickles. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
For having us, yes.
Yeah. Have a delightful day.
Yeah.